German machine gun opened up when the lead British squad was 50 yards from the crossroads. The squad immediately went to ground, returning fire while their sergeant called back coordinates. Within 30 seconds, a British mortar team had ranged the position. 3 rounds later, the machine gun stopped firing. "Advance," Pemberton called, and the British moved forward again, same pace, same precision. Morrison's squad followed, trying to match the British rhythm. It felt unnatural. Morrison wanted to run, to get to cover quickly, but he forced himself to move at the British pace. Hayes, beside him, was breathing hard. "This is taking forever," he muttered. "But we're not getting shot," Morrison pointed out. They reached the crossroads 15 minutes later. The German position was abandoned, the crew having pulled back when the mortars found them. The British immediately set up defensive positions, sent out patrols, and established a perimeter. No celebration, no relief. Just the next task. Pemberton found Morrison. "Your men did well. Good fire discipline." "We followed your lead," Morrison admitted. "Sensible. You'll develop your own style eventually." "Everyone does." Pemberton pulled out a cigarette case, actual silver engraved, and offered one to Morrison. "The key is staying alive long enough to develop that style." Morrison took the cigarette. "Is it always like this for you? This controlled?" "Good Lord, no. Sometimes it's complete chaos, but you try to maintain structure anyway. Gives the men something to hold on to." Pemberton lit both their cigarettes. "You chaps came across at Omaha, yes?" "Yes, sir. Heard it was rather rough, worse than ours." "It was bad," Morrison said, and didn't elaborate. Pemberton nodded, didn't push. "Well, you're here now. That's what matters." He checked his watch. Morrison noticed it was a pocket watch, not a wristwatch. "We're holding this position until dark, then pushing forward another mile. Your lieutenant's coordinating with my second in command. Get your men fed and rested." Morrison saluted. The British returned salutes differently, he noticed, more casual, almost a wave, and went back to his squad. They'd found a shell crater and were sharing rations. Hayes had acquired a British ration tin from somewhere and was examining it with scientific interest. "It's got tea in it," Hayes announced. "The ration has tea. Not coffee. Tea." "Of course it does," Chen said. "Probably has crumpets too." "What's a crumpet?" "I don't know. Something British." Morrison sat down, pulled out his own rations. The British soldiers nearby were eating their own meals, talking quietly among themselves. Their conversation was different from American banter, more understated, full of dry humor and references Morrison didn't understand. One of them was reading a book, actually reading, while eating. Morrison couldn't imagine being calm enough to read in a combat zone. A British private noticed Morrison watching and came over, holding his ration tin. "Fancy a swap? I'll trade you my tinned beef for your—" "What is that?" "Spam," Morrison said. "Spam," the British soldier repeated, as if tasting the word. "What's it made of?" "Mystery meat." "Ah, same as ours then." The soldier sat down uninvited, produced a cigarette, and lit it. "You lot did well today. First time working with us?" "First time seeing you," Morrison said. "Really? Thought you'd been training in England." "We were, but we never actually met any British soldiers. Just trained on our own bases." The British private considered this. "That's mad. We're supposed to be allies, and they kept us separated? What did they think would happen when we met? We'd start fighting each other?" "Maybe they thought we'd be too different," Hayes suggested. "Are we?" the British soldier asked. "Different?" Morrison thought about it. "Yes, but not in bad ways. Just different." "Well, that's all right then." The British private stood, brushed off his battle dress. "Name's Reg, by the way. Reg Cooper, Sheffield." "Bill Morrison, Virginia." "Virginia, that's in the south, isn't it? You grow tobacco there?" Some places. Right, well, Bill Morrison from Virginia. Try not to get shot. I'd hate to lose a new friend so quickly. Reg wandered back to his own squad, leaving Morrison slightly confused about whether they were actually friends or if that was just British humor. He was weird, Chen said. They're all weird, Hayes added, but in a good way, I think. Morrison wasn't sure about good or bad, but he was beginning to understand that the British had their own way of fighting, their own way of surviving, and it worked for them. It might not work for Americans, it probably wouldn't, but it deserved respect. The evening brought more contact between American and British forces as units consolidated positions and established defensive lines for the night. Morrison's platoon was placed alongside a British platoon in a hedgerow position overlooking a valley. The British immediately began improving the position, digging deeper, establishing fields of fire, setting up a rotation for a watch duty. The Americans, exhausted from 2 days of combat, mostly just collapsed and tried to rest. The British platoon sergeant, a man named Davies with a Welsh accent so thick Morrison could barely understand him, came over after dark. "Your lads look knackered," he said to Lieutenant Kowalski. "We are knackered," Kowalski admitted, "whatever that means." Tired, exhausted, done in. Davies squatted beside them. "When did you last sleep proper?" "Before we got on the boats. 2 days ago." Davies whistled softly. "Right, here's what we'll do. My lads will take first watch. We're used to it. You boys sleep until midnight. Then we swap." "Fair." Kowalski hesitated. "You sure? That's a lot of watch duty for your men." "They can handle it. Besides, you're no good to anyone if you're falling asleep on watch." Davies stood. "Get some kip. We'll wake you if Jerry shows up." Morrison wanted to protest. It felt wrong, letting the British pull their weight, but he was too tired to argue. He found a spot against the hedgerow, wrapped his jacket around himself, and was asleep within minutes. He woke to someone shaking his shoulder. It was still dark. Reg Cooper was crouched beside him. "Midnight, your watch." Morrison sat up, groggy. "Anything happen?" "Quiet as church. Jerry's probably as tired as you lot." Reg handed him a canteen. "Tea, still hot. Well, warmish." Morrison drank. The tea was sweet this time, with condensed milk. It cut through the fog in his head. "Thanks. No worries. Your mate's on. Watch at that gap there." Reg pointed to Hayes's position. "We've got the left flank covered. Anything moves in that valley, we'll see it." He started to leave, then turned back. "Oh, and Morrison, your snoring could wake the dead. Might want to work on that." Morrison spent his watch studying the British positions. Even in darkness, even with half the platoon asleep, they maintained discipline. The sentries stayed alert, moved regularly to avoid falling asleep, communicated with hand signals. When Davies made his rounds, he stopped to talk quietly with each sentry, checking not just their alertness, but their state of mind. It was professional in a way that went beyond training. It was habit, routine, the accumulated wisdom of years at war.